All right, thank you for staying with us. This is Good Morning Kenya, and this is our health segment. And our colleague, rather my colleague Rashid, was also just doing the same thing, talking matters health as this is World Breastfeeding Week, and they have really tackled that topic the way it should be tackled. And right now, we are getting into another different conversation, still matters health, but a whole other conversation, but it's still on women health, and that is uterine fibroids. We're going to be looking all around uterine fibroids, getting to understand what exactly it is, what causes it, what are some of the symptoms, does it interfere with a woman's fertility? All of that will be answered right here by our doctor in studio today, and that is none other than Dr. Sarah Mora. Dr. Sarah Mora is a general health practitioner, and she has over 16 years experience in general practice. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Vivian. Always an honor to be here.
It is a pleasure to have you on the show. And you know, we got to celebrate Fibroids International Awareness Month for fibroids last month.
Yes.
And as I was saying, it doesn't have a timeline. Such conversations should not be boxed into a specific month. So that is the reason why we've carried it over, and we are actually starting the month of August with the same conversation. Absolutely. So how about we just dive straight into it? Let's first understand, what are fibroids? Some people call it fibroids.
Yes.
Yeah, potato, potato.
Yes, so potato, potato. As long as we have understood each other, it is well. So first of all, it's important for us to recognize that these health awareness programs are very useful, and consistent speaking about them is very important, because we save people from a lot of things that you know, can hamper their life, that there's a solution for. So straight into fibroids. So fibroids is a condition that it's a medical condition that affects the uterus, and it affects the uterus in different positions. So what happens? There is growth that occurs within the uterus and can be outside the uterus. But unlike a cancer, because fibroids is non-cancerous, it's one cell that mutates. Unlike cancers where it's several cells that mutate, it's one cell that mutates and causes that growth. And within that growth, it can either be found inside the lining of the uterus, called the endometrium. It can be found within the walls, or it can be found outside the uterus. And some of it can hang, like it can actually be like a seed, what we call a hanging or pedunculated fibroid. So it has a stem of itself, and it comes out onto the abdominal wall. And those are the ones that we can see can affect something else outside what the uterus is functioned to do. Okay. Yes.
All right. Now, you mentioned that it is non-cancerous at all.
Yes.
But I don't know if this is a misconception. Can it develop to become cancerous? So
cancer from what we call a leiomyoma, which is what is a fibroid, is very rare. You have very low percentages, perhaps even less than 0.1% that develop into cancerous lesions. So when we get fibroids, our biggest concern is not that. Our concern is how then do we manage the things that, what is the fibroid doing at you, or on your body, is what we try to manage, because we don't think it will actually go to be cancerous from then. Yes.
All right. Now, looking at just how common fibroids are to women, like it is really, really common. Actually, study shows that by the time a woman gets to 50 years, 80% of women have gotten fibroids at some point in their lives or are battling it.
Yes.
So it is quite common.
Yes.
Why is it this common, and specifically to the black woman?
So,
because black women are more susceptible.
Yes. So one of the things that we must know about the fibroid, it responds to what naturally women have, which is estrogen and progesterone. So every cycle you have estrogen, progesterone. As we are right now, we are producing estrogen for us to be called women. Absolutely. So that's why, number one, it's very common, because fibroids respond and are made to grow or rapidly grow because in the presence of estrogen and progesterone. So that's why it's common. And then secondly, why black people, it's a genetic thing. Because you know there are things that black people don't get, diseases. I used to love it in undergraduate. There are pages in the book of medicine I did not have to get to because they will not affect black people. Until now, maybe you leave the borders of Africa is when now you start realizing that some diseases are actually there. We used to just see them on textbook. Yeah, so that is just what I call the balance of medicine. Genetics can protect you from certain diseases and can make other diseases be able to show up in a race. Yes. Yeah. So commonly then you'll see that the black woman, statistically the unfortunate thing is that research is not helping us because most people don't do research in such things. Because we have so many female gynecologists, we have so many female doctors, female researchers, but this space is very wanting. I guess it's because, as we discuss, we'll see, it's not a very big threat to what doctors can manage when it comes to fibroids. Yes.
Okay, so let's get into this causes of fibroids.
Yes.
What exactly causes it? I know you've said research is still wanting in this area, but do we have specific things that we know cause fibroids apart from the hormones and maybe genetics?
So one of the biggest things still remains the hormonal imbalances, right? And so when we look at a person with fibroids, the first thing is that we're checking where is the exposure to hormones. They've naturally then told us things like some diets can cause that, but again, like I say, we have to be very careful when studies are not being done very well. So it does still remain hormonal exposure. So let's talk about hormonal exposure. Other than a hormonal imbalance, maybe you have a hormonal imbalance problem. The other thing would be medications or things that contain estrogen, progesterone that will now increase. So I'm actually talking about your contraception. It's a double-edged sword. And one day we'll talk about the contraception because I feel that there's a lot of misnomer in contraception when it comes to Africa. We need to discuss that and let people know why contraceptions are there. Because we prevent one thing, we expose another. So there are few myths in the causes of that. There are a lot of people who say when you're pregnant, that could make it worse. Actually, it's the other way around. So pregnancy has been shown and breastfeeding have been shown to make it minimize or reduce even the symptoms of that time. Of course, we have the few percentages who that may not happen, but it is very high chances of reducing and minimizing even the effects of the fibroids on the body of a person. So it's still estrogen and progesterone are the causes, the ones that we can take to the bank.
Yeah, so too much of estrogen.
Too much of estrogen and progesterone, which is mostly medication that will cause that. What does stress do to you? Because again, stress does hormonal imbalances on its own. Stress now causes a disproportionate increase in hormones that suppress estrogen. So it could go either way. So it's just the symptoms of fibroids that become worse with stress. Yes.
Oh, there's no way we are escaping mental health, awareness and, just ensuring that your mental health is in check because it brings about so many things. I never thought of fibroids being part of, something that, mental or stress would elevate or make it worse. Interesting.
It's very interesting because a lot of people, like I say, a lot of mental health challenges are lost in the medical field. Just like I said, a lot of healing miracles are lost in the medical field. So most people don't realize that these are women who are struggling because of just merely the presence of seeing me and I demystify things. Stress levels of a woman jump from sky high to close to zero. And you start seeing symptoms even alleviating on themselves. And some of them, the fibroids actually disappear. Yes. Yes.
All right. So speaking about some of them getting to disappear sometimes, is there a way that one can actually work around protecting themselves from or preventing fibroids?
It's very hard because you're a woman, I'm a woman, we are women. So estrogen is the thing we have. So it's very difficult to say, oh, I'm going to eat this, I'm going to do this to present, there's no exercise, there's nothing now. The good thing I want to reassure somebody who's listening to us is when they come, we know what to do. So there's no prevention, they're just things that we work around to help facilitate a good life, whatever your good life looks like, whatever your normal life, or even better, because normal is relative, right? So we want excellent life for your personal self. So we have ways to mitigate that. So prevention is not something that you can. The only thing I can say is then contraception. Let us judiciously use that wisely. Let it not be a solution for things that require character development. Yes.
Okay. The symptoms, how does that look like? What are some of the symptoms that could tell that one has fibroids before even they get to be diagnosed?
So this is a woman who presents to you with abdominal pain as a common sign, and usually it's lower abdominal pain, and some of them will tell you, I feel like I want to urinate, there's no urine, or I feel like I've not finished urinating. That's a common sign for a fibroid. The other thing is pain during intercourse. Now, when I say pain during intercourse, I also want to intimate that pain can happen during intercourse when you are stressed. So we must tell the differences, and still those need to be seen by a professional, because you should not have pain during sex. The third thing that we see, this is a woman who comes with heavy menses, and some of them it's so heavy that it's heavy in between. So her normal cycle sometimes is prolonged, or she has a normal cycle at 28 to 30 days, but in between she has what we call breakthrough bleeding, so she's bleeding again. The bleeding can be very heavy. We're talking about people who can go as high as 7 pads a day, and a lot of clots. So they start now having clots being produced. The other thing that we see as a sign or a symptom of a person with fibroid is this is a woman who has miscarriages, consistently having a miscarriage. That's one thing we check, and we're sure, okay, we have to eliminate fibroids as a cause, or even just inability to conceive, which is infertility. So those are some of the things we see. Constipation, heaviness, there are people who just feel bloated. There's another one that is rarely talked about, is a very moody lady. I want to say this to us, and I'm glad it's us. Ladies, please, there's no room for moodiness. It's not okay.
Isn't it part of our day? Isn't it part of our day-to-day because of our hormones? Or this is just something we say to
just say you want
some
chocolate and you want flowers. It's okay to want to be cared for. And I think women, we should not shy away from that, because some of the moodiness is lack of a companion. And 99.99% of women must get married. You need a friend, you need a companion you can trust. So some of this moodiness, when you get them, please rule out physical problem, psychological problem before anything else. Yes, get good friends, get a good friend, and more so get somebody who's a companion and get married. You need somebody to whisper things to, you know? Yeah, so moodiness is not okay. And I also want to say this, pain during periods is also not okay. Let's not be comfortable with that. And that is something we've
really normalized, because it's the usual. I just know that during my periods on the first day, I have to get those cramps, you know, so it's not normal.
But let's not normalize pathology, because it's not normal to have painful periods. It's not normal to be moody during that time either. And it's also not okay when you're unwell for people to say, yeah, they're in pain, so they can be moody. There are some things, let me say this, human beings are so layered that the presence of a disease, and fibroids is a disease, and let me explain what I mean by disease. It comes and interrupts your ease. So whenever somebody is unwell and they're moody, most people chalk it down to fibroid pain, their heavy menses, But I have found when we bring them into counseling, mental health counseling, we achieve much more than just merely getting in there and dealing with what they did. One of the things I advise my colleagues as medical doctors and even counselors, anyone in the healthcare profession, is when we finish with a patient, we leave them with their issue. I leave you with what it is. You walk out of my office with what you have. I know there's a solution, and no one belittles disease. But when you leave my office, you live with what this thing came to do in your life. You live with the changes it brought in your life. You live with the disruption, because absenteeism, the financial, economical, social impact that it has on a woman. We leave them with that. So when I now started moving and adding that as a medical doctor and a counselor, I noticed that this helps a lot when we deal with patients, especially on things we medical practitioners think is very simple.
Okay,
yes.
Okay, so that counseling is also just as important as medication for any other, problem that one may be going through.
Yes.
Okay, there's something you touched on, which is very important when you talk about matters fibroids, and that is infertility and fibroids, or fertility and fibroids. Where is the correlation?
So, one of the things is that it's not obviously a lead, it's not one is equals to another, but there are some types of fibroids. Remember, I had talked about the location of the fibroids. So some fibroids, let's now assume that I am now going to demonstrate how a fibroid looks like. So my body is the womb, my hands are the fallopian tube, and my fingers are where the ovaries are. So if they are here, you can see the junction of the womb and the fallopian tube, they can crush, or rather they can pinch on or press on the fallopian tube, and that causes infertility. If they are also inside the womb and at the junction here, also cause the same. If they are in the inner lining of the uterus and they are large, there is no space for implantation of the fertilized egg, that causes infertility. So that's how it causes infertility. It's not directly challenging ovulation. It challenges the transport, it challenges the implantation of the egg on there. Yes.
So that's how it gets to affect a woman's fertility.
Yes.
Hence, what you had mentioned earlier about the miscarriages, because it compares, or it depends on where that fibroid has attached itself in the womb, or in the uterus.
Yes.
So if it's somewhere where the baby is supposed to attach, then it causes an issue, because now there's a problem in this. Is it called an embryo?
Yes.
Yeah. The embryo growing, and you know, this also being there. So that's what causes the miscarriages.
Yes, because you remember it has to attach onto the surface. And the reason is that in the endometrial lining, which is what you menstruate, so when people menstruate, it is normal. Menstruation is not a bad thing. So when it attaches, it is looking for a place to get nutrients. And the fibroid doesn't have that. So then again, even if it attaches onto the fibroid, it's likely to abort, and the miscarriage is what we have.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So for a young lady who's watching us, or for a woman who's still in her childbearing age and still wants to get children or conceive, and they've just found out that they have fibroids.
Yes.
Should this be alarming? You know, given the explanation that you've just given, should this be a cause for alarm? Most
fibroids are incidental findings, so they're asymptomatic. So you'll go there, maybe you're pregnant, or you're trying to get pregnant, or you're putting in an intrauterine device, which is contraception. Then you find, oh, okay, I do have a fibroid. So number one thing is no cause for alarm, because remember I said that the interventions that we have are already there, so you should not be concerned about it. Then we're looking at size. So size depends on what outcomes we're looking at when you're young. And remember, yes, that the younger people have chances of recurrence, but still we have ways to which we can intervene. And we do take you back to what is fairly normal. So fairly normal for you will be the ability to give birth. Like fibroids is, I know that there are cases where that is not been the case, but we have many more positive outcomes with fibroids than we have negative outcomes, without belittling the negative outcomes. So that information I would give to a young lady while she in my office and was speaking about this.
Yeah. Yes. What causes the recurring of it? Say you've had these fibroids, they were removed, and then now, after a couple of years, then it's now back. What is there? Is there research that is surrounding that? You know, what causes the recurring of it?
So it's just the hormones. You see, again, your estrogen is still present. You're still alive with estrogen, and I think maybe when you get into menopause, that's now less likely to be an issue. but mostly it's your hormones. So at a younger, why even a lot? Can I tell you one of the most strangest studies that was suggested? Because sexually activity in women in Africa is more, and then use of more contraception, which is more estrogen. So, I mean, that's still out there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at Africa generally, more children are actually born in Africa. So, I mean, the statistics for birth rates are going down in Africa because most people are now using contraception. And we're talking about now pills especially.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We definitely should create time to talk about contraception. Maybe that should be our next conversation. You know, I'm sure my producer is listening to this. So, yeah, we'll create time for that.
Look forward
so
to
that we can get deeper into that, because you've mentioned it quite a number of times.
Yes.
So, say for a lady who is asymptomatic, right? So she has the fibroids, but they don't do nothing to her. She does not get the painful periods. She does not get the abdominal pain. You know, her menses are just normal. She does not have heavy menses. And all those symptoms that you got to talk about, there's nothing. Probably just her knowing there's something that is swelling in me, and she's already gone and found out it's a fibroid, but it does nothing to her. Yeah. So are there risks to untreated fibroids if she decides, I don't feel like I should treat it if it's not doing anything to me? Are there risks to that?
Do you know in medicine we have watch and wait even for fibroids that we've already gotten? Yeah, we have that watch and wait. So if somebody is listening to me and the doctor is doing nothing, we will say Dr. Rimbaya. There is watch and wait, because these things can dissolve on its own. So while you are asymptomatic, I would also be asymptomatic to their presence. I would not care. I would do watch and wait. So what does that look like? Women, please, part of your empowerment should be annual medical checkups. And part of your annual checkups is you have a pap smear and you have an ultrasound. All right? So those things will help you follow up yearly how you're progressing. So I will not be concerned about them. Yes, we'll just take it by the year. And when you get pregnant, which you can, please feel free to carry that baby to term. Feel free to agree with your womb that it has the capacity to carry the baby to term. Even if the fibroid grows with the child, because sometimes it can, you don't have to worry, because as soon as you start breastfeeding, that thing shrinks and we take it out for you so that there is no risk of it regrowing into a bigger. And there are some we don't even touch after breastfeeding. And it's exclusive breastfeeding. And then you'll just notice it shrinks. Then we deal with it from there. If it starts to grow, we deal with it from a smaller level, and that should be okay.
Yeah. Yes. And I get why you're saying research is a bit underwhelming when it comes to fibroids. And your explanation was maybe because it's not of much concern. This is something that can be dealt with. You know, we've had celebrities who've come up to talk about matters fibroids. For example, Lupita Nyong'o is a big advocate on fibroids, and she keeps fighting for, let us get funding in order for us to do more research on this thing that is affecting most black women. But I get your point when you say it's not as alarming. It can be alarming, but there's something that can be done.
There's something that can be done. And then also I also say, you can put money in a place, but if you don't have an enthusiastic researcher, it will be skewed research. You know, people can come up with any hypothesis and fund it. So what I then advise people to do when it comes to certain researches, because funding is available should an enthusiastic researcher be present. So the reason why people are not going in there again, just to reiterate, is there's a solution. There's a solution.
And you say, are there times when they can just disappear? Shrink and melt away?
Person comes in, the fibroids are this.
Is that what we call miracle, or there's science to it?
Now, let me tell you science to it. And it is a miracle. But let me tell you the science to it. The human capability. Let's use a term that people know. The best revenge is success. If you decide that your ex-boyfriend is going to see you successful, you will be, whether it's good success or bad, but you have made up your mind. It's the same thing with the human body. If you decide this disease is taking me nowhere, these things will happen. Medicine is, they tell us bodies don't read books. There's just a science to consistency of the things that we see, which is evidence-based medicine. But the evidence, remember I was saying that miracles are lost in the medical place, because there are people who come and they've not taken concussions, they've not taken anything, they've just believed this thing. If you decide to stay, it will not affect me, but it will leave my body in any which way, and they shrink.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. And I love that coming from a doctor.
Yes.
That, you know, miracles do happen.
They do. And imagine even if we read for so long, we're not primarily too attached with the medical aspect of life. And this is what I also want to tell somebody who is saying that they know that as they go, and you better have faith for it. Don't just say something in a corner, you're stressed. It will not happen. But we are seeing it, and there are doctors like me who believe in that, who have seen it happen, from cancer to all sorts of diseases, where a patient has come back and we're like, wow, you're serious. I met a lady whose womb regrew. A story for another day.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes.
What do you mean? Like the womb was taken out?
Yes, she had had an abortion that failed. The womb came out. And subsequently later, she had a womb.
Wow.
I
got
know.
Stories to share.
That's what I said. In the medical office, we see things. It's unfortunate that we don't publicize such things. Yes.
Okay. All right. We should be taking a break, but even before, I know we have a minute to the break. Let's talk concussions, because when it comes, when we talk much as fibroids, not necessarily just fibroids, but just as Africans, you'll always find someone who's telling you, I have a concussion for that. You don't need to go to hospital, do you? I have a concussion that can heal that.
Yes. Now, luckily, you found a doctor who is not at the singanganangi na Western medicine. If an alternative is there, please, let's go. The problem I have with concussion is that they are medicine.
All right, I'll ask you to hold that thought. Let's take the break, and then we come back and continue with this conversation. Don't go too far. Thank you for staying with us. In case you're just joining us, we are talking matters uterine fibroids, and my doctor in studio today is Dr. Sarah Mora. So, Doc, before we took that break, we were just talking about the concussions.
Yes.
That there seems to be a solution for everything, you know, every medical problem. So, concussions for fibroids, do you advise? Do you not?
No, I don't advise. And I want to take this back to medical practice. Let's first start with that. When the ones who are studying pharmacists to become pharmacists study something called pharmacognosy. To them, it's cognosy, and it's about plants. Medicine comes from plants. What we've just done is packaged it and given it a nice rosy tablet look or capsule look. But it's a plant origin, and then they just put things on top there. So the plants that you're going to use as a concoction are medicinal. So some of them are supposed to they will end up causing bleeding because they attack the platelets. Some of them will end up causing kidney and liver disease because it's medication. For example, let me just make it into a simpler thing, which we both use every day. Okay, I don't use, but paracetamol, that's common use. Paracetamol, this is Panadol.
Yeah.
The consistent use of Panadol affects your liver. Now, on top of alcohol, it makes it worse. And liver failure is now something we are now seeing knocking in Africa quite a lot because of over-the-counter medication.
Oh, boy.
And we are also seeing that, because remember, I'm such a champion of medicine that I go for medical camps in the rural and in the marginalized communities. And they use concussions, and they still end up with liver failure because there's that mixture and not understanding what to do. So let's talk about the herbalist or the person who is selling these things. My biggest concern is there's no apprenticeship for Mitishamba. There is no one who has sat down. It's like we do 6 years and 12 years on top. People study medicine for 17 years also. You have not sat under become a good apprentice for you to know if you mix this and you mix that, it will not work. So a lot of people can come in with liver issues and kidney issues because of that concussion. Leave alone on top of that the interaction of what we call drug interactions between that concussion and any other medication you're taking. So no one has sat to do that good apprentice to understand. So we are not nullifying traditional medicine. Yeah. I am boldly saying there is no apprenticeship. So somebody can sit down and concoct something because there is no research to the end. There is no legal bind to the end. It works for you as a placebo effect. Remember I said placebo effect is the same thing. I decide revenge, the best success is, the best revenge is success. Yeah. If I swallow a Panadol, like let me give you a simplest example. If people had a headache and they, as soon as they put Panadol and they swallow it, the headache has gone. That that's not yet started working. That's placebo. So these concoctions work for the same reason. I have hyped it. It has been hyped. Yeah. Your psychological part is accepting that that is the solution. And I think sometimes on the higher level it's manipulative. Because most of the time we find people who wamefika mwisho, there is no solution to this thing. So then what you're offering them is the only choice they have. And it might work. But we don't know that at the end of the day.
What else is
what
it
else we have? But a lot
damage?
of people come with kidney and liver issues from there. Yes.
Interesting, and it's a good thing that we have you here so that you've put it out there for someone who probably believes in them and they just don't know what else it's doing to them.
And remember,
to their bodies,
we're not even
organs.
interfering with traditional medicine. We are strongly saying, please, these things be well researched. Because even when we do, how do we know Panadol works for pain? We researched. We know the side effects. We don't know to the end. And I agree with somebody who's doing traditional medicine. But you're still very limited in what that concoction is that you're mixing that is not coming out well. And it's actually detrimental to a patient, having now from traditional sending them to westernized medicine from that. So we have no problem with traditional medicine. Yeah. Yes.
Well put, well put. Now, concoctions aside, what are the treatment options available for fibroids?
So when we talk about treatment, in the end is surgery. What we do in between alleviates or reduces temporarily before we think of surgery. So should they disappear, we don't need to operate. So common things then we use are pills that are hormonal pills, but they work differently. And these hormonal pills target where the primary source of hormones are built up, called the pituitary gland. So most of them target so that estrogen is reduced in the production. But this is temporary, remember. So that we get to seeing, were they too big and we have shrunk them for surgery, or is it a wait and see? So it's not a permanent solution for those. So surgical interventions, one is you remove the fibroid alone, which is myomectomy. Two is you remove the uterus and the cervix, because remember, cervical cancer is the #1 cause of death in Kenya and in Africa. Pap smears, guys, please do. And then the other type that we do that is non-invasive is we use sounds or laser to try and shrink and cause death to, or embolization, which causes death within the fibroids, for it to shrink and just disappear. But outside all these other things, outside hysterectomy, which is the removal of the uterus and the cervix, these ones have chances of recurrence. Yes, so you might have gone, they've removed just the fibroid its own, but it can still recur. But we'll still go back in and remove.
It
yes, that's why we're doing laparoscopically. Instead of long time, we used to have to open the woman up. But now we do laparoscopically, which gives minimal scarring.
For someone who's had that word for the first time, laparoscopy, what is it? What are you doing? Because you're not cutting, you know, the way you used to cut back in the day. So how is it done?
So it's actually telescopic, where we use instruments, small piped instruments, and even we make incisions that are very small, so they can be this size. And then we find ways in the umbilicus, like places where it's hidden. So inside the umbilical cord, or maybe under where the bikini line is, for minimal scarring. Because before we used to cut, or if they are big, we used to cut the whole midline. So that's what I mean by laparoscopic, is that we just use instruments that can telescopically tell us how we can operate without the surgeon entering inside the abdomen directly. Yes, so that's the minimal invasive type. type. Embolization is also something we do that's also minimally invasive. We just cause the fibroid to die, if you like, and then it shrinks off and dissolves.
Using laser?
No, it's just, we use like chemicals.
Okay.
And then there's also laser. There's also ultrasound. Perhaps then one of the things would be you enter a machine like a CT scan, MRI. Mostly it's an MRI, and then it zeroes in on where the fibroid is located, and then that's the only place we hit it with the sound, and then it actually dissolves.
And that is like a new discovery in Kenya specifically?
So for Kenya, yes, new, but it's been there for long.
Okay.
Remember, the challenges that we have are usually financial. So, and then let me say this. So we shouldn't now then go out there and say that we now want these things brought here, because remember what I said, recurrence. Yeah, so I mean, there still will be a recurrence with that one.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not that, oh, this one now will completely nullify fibroids. No. It's just not invasive. And remember, I said there are other minimally invasive ways to deal with the fibroids already present.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
Are there any risks to the treatment options that you've given? Of course, the removal of a uterus has its own effects.
Yes.
But are there any maybe side effects?
So when I remove the uterus, I send you immediately to menopause. So you do become menopausal, so you also cannot give birth. Then, you know, hot flashes, osteoporosis then becomes a challenge right there. But let's talk also about myomectomy. The biggest thing is recurrence, and therefore sometimes the recurrence is unpleasant, so that the fibroids can even become bigger and then cause more symptoms. So the heavy bleeding, infertility because of size. So those are the things that we are seeing in terms of side effects. So even scarring. So after I've done surgery and then the healing causes scarring, it can scar. Remember, my armpits were the junction between the fallopian tube and the uterus. It can cause scarring at that level, and then, but we have surgical interventions to that. So it's not that we are stuck with that scarring. We have ways around it. Yeah, so those are the most common concerns that patients will have: recurrence and symptoms worsening with infertility. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Beautifully, beautifully explained, Dr. Mora. It was a pleasure having you on the show. Probably just your last remarks. That's your camera.
Yes.
You can just speak to the camera and just, you know, talk to a woman out there who's battling fibroids.
Yes.
Yeah.
So to you who's listening to me, a woman out there diagnosed with fibroids, recovering from a diagnosis of fibroids, I want to let you know that despite minimal research, you are important. Number two, the presence of fibroids in your life does not change your value. Number three, there is a solution. You just need to find where it is. Number four, solutions being there does not mean you run to any type of solutions. Number five, we care for you here at KBC. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was a pleasure getting to have you on the show, getting to just have you grace our show today. I do appreciate.
Thank you. It's an honor to be of service.
All right. This is where we get to end this particular conversation. That was Dr. Sarah Mora, who is a general health practitioner with over 16 years of experience. And this is where we get to end this conversation, as well as Good Morning Kenya, this beautiful cold Tuesday. Do stay warm and enjoy the rest of your viewing. See you tomorrow, same time, and please, God willing. Goodbye.